So, knowledge is nothing but a small part of ignorance, which now we claim to be known.
Hello, ma'am. How are you? Welcome on the Thakkar show, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you for having me. Thank you for invitation. And yeah, how are you doing? I'm fantastically fine. Thank you.
I'm doing good, ma'am. I'm doing good. Ma'am, last time we had a conversation and we were talking about mindset, and you said that ignorance plays a very major role in forming a good mindset. So, like, can you please throw some light on that?
Okay, you picked up a very a conversation which held a couple of months ago, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And you have to remind me of context, but let me come to ignorance. What exactly ignorance is, and what exactly knowledge is, because they are two contrasts, and often it is said that they are opposites. It is true that opposite of knowledge is ignorance. So knowledge, if you practically see, is extremely very limited. It is basically the personification of ignorance. What we never knew, we tried finding out, and now we know.
Hmm.
So knowledge is nothing but a small part of ignorance, which now we claim to be known.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So what is ignorance? Ignorance is wide, limitless. It is so limitless that you do not know what is, perhaps could be, the personification of it.
Hmm.
Right. So whatever we know is a small minuscule of what is unknown, and it's like manifestation of ignorance is knowledge. So now we know look and shape and feel and size and color and smell or whatever of what was unknown. Now we know, and we can explain in our limited knowledge in terminology that this is how it is. So, and how does it play the major part in setting up the mindset of a person is very interesting, because when we know that we do not know, we try to become a seer. When
Hmm.
we accept that we do not know, we try to find out.
Hmm.
When we start claiming that, hey, I know what I know, then you stop your journey. Then you
Hmm.
stop. You become, your nose become bigger than your universe, right? So it's very simple that, when you claim that, ignorance is widespread, knowledge is widespread, and I do not know, but I thrive to know that. That is the mindset which is required for any person to grow, to reach to a higher heights, to greater heights. So
And
we should all be
like.
ignorant, basically.
True, true, man. And like when you said the manifestation of ignorance, like we've heard this term many a times, and majorly like what I'm currently going through is I'm going through philosophical texts, and I've gone through few Indian philosophical texts, the texts which you recommended, the Mandukya Upanishads as well, to understand like how manifestation and consciousness and all these things works. And the manifestation I initially heard in Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says that I am nothing but I am manifestation of this universe. Even you and us and every one of us are manifestation of this universe. And when I associated that terminology when you said knowledge is manifestation of ignorance is because my perception of it is when we say knowledge, the what we perceive of knowledge is basically what is the true nature of it. Like how I perceive the term knowledge is the absolute truth, the truth which uh, pervades everywhere, which is there everywhere. And ignorance is like we know some part of it. Let us, if there's something absolute true which we learn and perceive through science, and then the and then there's the truth which is still yet to be discovered, let's say scientifically, which has been there in many religious texts, which we say as Brahman. And to see that, or to understand that, we need to reach to a level of consciousness where it is said Turiam. And you were the one who made me aware of the term, and like I would like you to throw some more light in that.
So with my very limited knowledge, whatever little, very little I know, if I say that, knowledge and ignorance are no two things, they're one and the same thing,
Hmm.
right? So when you in your path of knowing something,
Hmm.
right, you find out something, and
Hmm.
you give or you label it, you give it a shape, you give it a name, you give it a space, and you bind it with time, space, words, whatever limits, right? So you say that, you claim it, that it is knowledge, but it has come out from where? It has come out from the ignorance only, which was unknown. So they are
Hmm.
not two separate things. It's just that the perception has
Hmm.
given it a limit, a size, a shape, a name, a label. So they
Hmm.
are not two different things. This
Hmm.
is our unlimited. This is our limited knowledge that we claim it to be different or far from or other than. The concept of otherness, the knowledge and the ignorance are different. This is the concept of otherness. So
Hmm.
in non-duality, it is one and the same. Like
Hmm.
we are the manifestation of the supreme power. We are one. But if we read the Advait philosophy or non-dualism, we will find that he and we are not different. We
Hmm.
are one and the same, right? So it's one. There are different schools of thought. So as far as this school is concerned, right? Ignorance and knowledge is not different, but knowledge is the personification of what we have known or we have found out. So Gyan or Vigyan, again, Gyan is pure
Hmm.
knowledge or whatever is done, and Vigyan is basically what you could manage. You hypothesized something, and you could manage to find out, and you could perhaps be able to give it the name of a theory or a principle or a law, and you could manage to apply that knowledge what is now known to you,
Hmm.
right? So it's like that. And as far as tourism is concerned, there are basically different levels or say phases of no I mean in Vedantic literature, that one is a dreamer, one is the I'm forgetting, the dreamer
The
and the
one is
awaker,
awaken, then there is
the
dreamer, then there is deep
dreamer,
sleep, and then there's
and there's
the supreme conscious.
Turium.
Yeah.
The fourth is the Turium, on which all these three things plays,
Hmm.
so shines upon. So Turium is the is the supreme consciousness
Hmm.
on everything, all Maya,
Hmm.
everything which dances around, which plays around. So
Hmm.
Turium is the deepest of knowledge, or maybe which is unknowable, many people claim, but
Hmm.
basically it is who we are, and this is who we thrive to be,
Hmm.
right? So when you dream, you are awakened or you are in deep sleep. There are different phases, but they play upon the supreme consciousness. So
Hmm.
what shines upon everything is the Turiya, is the supreme consciousness or the absolute consciousness. So in different schools or in different philosophical approaches, it is named differently. Somewhere it is Brahmin, somewhere it is the consciousness, somewhere it is something else.
Hmm.
But perhaps it is the ground on which everything plays, and which is
Hmm.
pervasive, which is wide, which is undefinable,
Hmm.
limitless, that way.
True. And like from whatever I have got to know by reading the text, the Mandukya Upanishad, which specifically talks about these four stages of consciousness, and especially talks about Turiam. Um, it says that when we are awakened, when we have when we perceive the world through our senses, that is what we say the lowest level of uh, consciousness. Then when we go and dream, the consciousness turns inwards, where we play with our thoughts in a virtual reality, let's say, which our brain creates, and we be there, we play with our thoughts, our emotions, and everything, which goes and works inside us. Then there's a deep sleep where we do not experience anything, but we experience the experience of not experiencing anything.
So,
and and when we
yes.
have and when we experience the experience of not experiencing anything in an awakened state, that's where it says that we have achieved one of the purest states of consciousness. This is what I was able to understand from what I've gone through the text. And when I went through the neurophysiological aspect of it, just to understand at what happens in the brain while we are in different levels of consciousness, we are still yet to discover what happens in our brain when we are in deep sleep, or even at the dreamer level. And the text, which I think was written around few thousand years ago, 5-10,000 years ago, it says about the level which is beyond the deep sleep, or when we are experiencing the deep sleep, when we are awake and walking, talking in front of people.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about neuroscience and all that, it basically primarily deals with the biology. So it
Hmm.
deals with your brain, which is physical. And through physical, it is very difficult to reach, which is not physical.
Hmm.
Right. And through, certain something which is not physical can only be experienced with experience. I mean, with consciousness. Consciousness can be experienced through consciousness, that you're conscious
Hmm.
about, that it cannot be experienced through physical apparatuses, or it cannot be experienced through what is known. So
Hmm.
when you keep your slate blank, that I am ignorant, I do not know anything, then your journey becomes, it gets validated. Okay, you do not know, then you're walking on the path of something which is unknown. And in that path, during that journey, you might find something, right? So when we know that, we're trying to, figure out something through, which is very physical, through the physical tools, it is a difficult thing, because you already have some hypothesis, an assumption again is a limit. This is,
Hmm.
it's like, having a vision of the future. You know what is going to happen after 10 years, you can view it, you can
Hmm.
sense it, right? Which means you have already have a picture, a scenery in your mind. So
Hmm.
when there is a scenery, when there is a picture, which means that the space is not unknown to you.
Hmm.
The space is known to you. In your perception, it is known to you. Right?
Hmm.
When you accept that everything is I'm ignorant, and I do not know. I have no vision, I have no perception. I'm only going to experience.
Hmm.
Then the journey becomes worthwhile. So
Ah.
that's the only difference, because when you visualize, you perceive, which means there is a scene,
Hmm.
which means there is a figure,
Hmm.
there's already something which is personified, right? Labeled, which means limited in a space and time,
Hmm.
right? And if you try and find out what is beyond space and time, then you cannot fix it with the space and time,
Hmm. The whole perception of like this, it's like when we lose the identity of who we are, because like I had a talk recently with in my previous podcast, and we had a conversation on um, service. And we had a conversation on like what makes us feel more pain in like mostly related to the mental pain, how we perceive things. We get too much attached, and then conversation went on, uh, and it went on like when we think of ourselves as we are doing a service to someone. Like for example, if uh, we are kissing our loved one, let's say for me I am kissing my mother, and for you you are kissing your child. We kiss with the intention that with the emotion and the attachment we have towards the person. Like this is what I have the bonding with, this is whom I feel attached to. Versus if we just change the perception of I am kissing a someone, I am kissing a human, I am servicing my love to a human, and then that human you can identify with whatever person that is, like mother, child, or whatever that person is. But if the initial perception changes that my something versus I'm serving to someone, and that changes a whole lot of perspective of how you perceive yourself and what you think of yourself overall, if you try and practice it for a longer time.
Okay, a very intense, deep question and complex too. So your question has its answer in itself. So one, why are we doing this service? You said you know you're loving your child and you're loving your mother. So with
Mm-hmm.
what intention? What is the content here? What is the content here? What is the intention here? And
Mm-hmm.
when there is an intention, you're contained. You already have something. Your vessel is full. Are you understanding?
Mm-hmm.
So you're already not one with the other. You
Mm-hmm.
are already separate. Your vessel is not open. So
Mm-hmm.
if there is an intention, there is the container is full, filled, which means there is again it is bound by the limit. It is you and me.
Mm-hmm.
When there is no you and me, when there's no intention, you're doing it out of no intention, out of nothing. Whosoever you're doing for, I mean, whether it's your own child or somebody else's child or whosoever it is,
Mm-hmm.
when there's no difference between the intent and the doer and whom for whom you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the segregation, there's no segregation there.
Mm-hmm.
So in marketing, we teach that when we are in service industry, there is no difference between the service provider, and the service available.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So understand this from this very small perspective. When you've gone to a barber's shop and you asked him to cut your hair, you need to explain the service provider the how do I want my hair to look. You're already
Mm-hmm.
into the service, and the barber is cutting your hair. So service, what he's giving is not away from him; it is coming out of him. So there is no
Mm-hmm.
segregation between the three.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit on the barber's chair and you don't tell him what how do I want this to happen, he would not be able to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. And the moment another answer, when you say me, I, myself, you already have defined a limit.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, in last question you asked about Puriyam, there is no concept of I, me, myself in Puriyam.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one supreme consciousness and nothing beyond, nothing less than that. It's one and the same thing. The moment you say I, which means ego is there, you identify yourself with
Mm-hmm.
as a son, as a daughter, as a child, as a student, as a scholar. You already have
Mm-hmm.
started identifying yourself, labeling yourself
Mm-hmm.
to someone, which means there is again time and space bounding. It's a very, very deep philosophy, which I might also not be able to understand or answer, but whatever little I can, I'm just trying to do that.
No, true, ma'am.
I
And
have
like,
no capacity, actually.
no, ma'am, you've explained it
Yeah.
beautifully. And ma'am, going like you said, you are you are like the example which you gave in of marketing. You are also founder of DivIn Pro, and when I initially met you, you were into education industry. You were teaching students, and now you are into the entrepreneurial journey. How did that that shift happened? Like, what did you thought of that this is what I want to serve by founding DivIn Pro, and what exactly you serve to people?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, people feel that spirituality or so-called, finding out your own identity is different from being an entrepreneur. So see no difference between the two. You know,
Mm,
so a spiritual person and an entrepreneur, they are no two person. There also you're thriving to find out something. Here
mm,
also you're thriving to find out something or to
mm,
achieve somewhere. So as a spiritual person, in your journey, you're thriving to be one with the whole, right? And in your entrepreneurial journey, you're also again trying to be one with your vision. The
mm,
only difference is that in entrepreneurial journey, you have a vision, which means there is a
uh,
clear vision.
mm,
There is, so to say, a physical space
mm.
which is perceived by
A
you,
space of
which needs.
manifestation.
Yes,
Mm,
yes. So this is physical in nature, that is non-physical in nature, and this is the
mm,
only difference. The journey
mm,
could be the same. How you pursue the journey, what is the process, and how you thrive to attain that. There
mm,
could not be any difference. One is very physical,
mm,
very definable. Another is undefinable. That's the
mm,
only difference. And the another question: what exactly do we do, and what is Dive Pro is all about? So, uh, you know, I'm a people's person, so I believe in helping organizations grow. I believe in building relationships through meaningful conversations, like how we are doing. So in our organization, this is what we do. We try to help people grow. We try to basically build on relationships through meaningful conversations, and this happens through our DPO and a KPO. And yes, there's a couple of things which are very different about us from other typical BPOs and KPOs. That one, we are all women organization, which is rare to find. Second, is that we do this with a lot of research, so integrated BPO KPO solutions, and we help founders and entrepreneurs a lot in finding out what they want to find out.
mm,
Helping them build their minimum viable product and researching about them. How to reach to your market and where exactly your market lies.
mm,
Is it only your assumption, or let's try and prove that. So we
mm,
try and prove their hypothesis, their thesis, right? So
mm,
yeah, this is what we are trying to be. We work with government also. We could manage to also have onboarded a couple of CSR and NGOs to work with on certain really purpose-driven projects. And yeah. And since we are all women, so we're the best fit for women, children, and elderly specific needs.
wow,
This is what we do.
that's great. And in this whole journey of from what I perceive from you is you've also gone a lot into the spiritual texts, and you've also been in teaching industry. Now you're into entrepreneurship journey, and in these different journeys of your life in which you have been through, like what wisdom have you gained which you think that this is the crux of life which I have been able to find in the journey till now?
So what kind of person I am. I'm basically a person who love to do what I love to do and I believe in.
Mm,
So whenever I felt, and I always strive to. This is not me. This is actually human nature. Is to grow, is to unfold to their maximum, is to reach to a higher level to what
mm,
exactly you are now, right? So this is like any human being, I'm also trying to do that. So something gave me a lot of contentment at one point in time, and suddenly I feel that I'm done with this and I want something else to grow and to
mm,
learn more. And I started following that journey. Those journeys were, the path may look different, but the destination which perhaps I look forward to is the same, is to attain the purpose of my life. Why, whether it is through my entrepreneurial journey, or through my motherly journey, or through the academic sector where I learned a lot through the students like you who are doing so well, and they taught me a lot through those interactions. Because if on an average we see, I used to see 300 students a year on an average. So it means 300 minds, 300 thoughts, 300 belief systems, these many things you learn about. And you become minimal, you dilute with them. You have no existence of your own, you become one with them. So yeah, it's a greater learning. And the path may look different, the roads may look different, but they're reaching to the same destination of what I want, what I'm trying to find out of my life, my existence.
Wow, that's beautiful. Um, so thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on the show, and like for especially not just on the show, for having an interaction with me initially, to allow me to come to your office and have the initial interaction to um, expose me to different ideas of Hindu philosophy, and to guide me in whatever doubts I come up to you, and for also coming on this podcast and sharing your wisdom to every listener. I am really thankful for you, that you, even now you are an entrepreneur. You're still being a teacher, being a guidance for me, and I really hope to be your student for life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for saying this and believing in me, and having me on your show. I truly appreciate what you're doing. So I wish you all the very luck, great success, and peace in your life. Be
Thank you
healthy
so much.
and be good. Best of luck.
Thank
Take
you so
care.
much.